Good time zone internet. Hello and welcome to Design Club Live, the only game design show on the internet that is not lawyers, does not pretend to be lawyers, but is going to spend the next little bit looking at the law. I am your humble Design Club host, Will, joined as always by my pal Jeff. Say hi to the people, Jeff.
Hi to the people, Jeff. Good morning, everybody, and well, morning over here. Welcome to Design Club Live. I am Geoffrey Zatkin. I'm the studio director of Extra Credits, and more importantly for this, a long-time game designer, joined as always by my co-host Will. Well, let me get my fingers so it's not getting chopped off.
Yeah.
Voice of the people in our overlit internet, Twitch overlord.
There we go.
And today, we figured we'd jump into one of the fun things, which is that, hey, it's fun. Valve is getting sued for loot boxes.
Yeah.
Or loot boxes specifically in terms of gambling.
Yes.
By the state of New York, or the Attorney General of New York, and both sides seem to have both the high ground and the low ground in different ways.
Yeah.
On this.
This is probably one of the weirdest lawsuits, I think, to tackle. Because there have been, like, okay, in the Crafton lawsuit, right, which has also been in the news quite a lot, and we talked about it before, and there have been some updates, and we might talk about that at some other point, but probably not, because the updates are kind of weird. There was, like, a lot of they said, and there was a lot of dithering about what the facts are, right? Like, were people in dereliction of their duty as the CEO of the company, right? Was someone trying to prevent the earnout? Here,
possibly both.
Possibly both. Here, that feels like it's less the case, and there are a bunch of facts that everyone is, like, on board with. And so it's much more interesting because it's about what the facts imply, mean, what the legal consequences of the facts are, what the legal consequences of the facts should be, right? And it all really centers quite heavily on a fundamental question, which is what constitutes gambling? That's sort of, at least in my opinion, Jeff, what the like the fundamental question is. And that's also been much in the news recently, right? There are a large number of ongoing lawsuits around the United States right now against Kalashi and Polymarket, which are two prediction markets, which are not gambling in, like, huge scare quotes, at the same time as there's a giant rise in sports betting, right? Many people commented that, like, the Super Bowl this year, everything was either an AI commercial, a sports betting commercial, or an AI sports betting commercial. And, like, that was how it felt. So there's a whole bunch of things going on in, like, in the US as pertains to gambling. And here it's coming to bear on Valve, who's, like, I would say this is central to the industry, but we'll talk a little bit about why Valve is probably the only company that's going to be affected like this, and why that's weird. So, shall we like start by looking at some facts, Jeff?
Let's do that because, well, actually, we're closing all this other stuff because my social stream is still doing weird things, but I will not be distracted by this today.
Okay.
But it will mean, Will, I may ask you to type something into chat for me because I may or may not be able to. Actually, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's see. Does this part work? Hey, okay.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. So,
okay. There is definitively a company called Valve. Definitively, they both own Steam, but that is not the interesting point here. For this point, not as much.
Right. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
In this case, Valve is more getting sued as the owner and developer of a slate of games, all of which monetize via loot boxes.
Correct.
With an extra asterisk on the end of that.
Yes.
And the asterisk is the really important part because many companies use loot boxes.
Right.
And in this case, the lawsuit's getting brought by the Attorney General of the state of New York,
Yep.
who is alleging
Yep.
that Valve's use of loot boxes, unlike many, many other groups, actually constitute gambling.
Correct. And so I have here to bring onto screen the press release.
Am I going to get small?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're getting small. Okay, so this is really small text, and I'm going to make it bigger. Don't worry, chat. If you're reading along at home, I will also put the relevant links in the description of this video if you're watching it later. There are some quite relevant links that I will put in the thing so you can read these for yourself. Okay, so this was filed at the end of February.
For those interested, it is currently the middle of March, so we're 2 or 3 weeks post-filing.
Yes.
So enough time for things to surface and us to kind of research around it.
Yes. So the press release states that the New York Attorney General Letitia James is suing Valve for the alleged practice of illegally promoting gambling through video games popular with children and teenagers. So that's a whole bunch of parts.
The children and teens is the extra sticker on this, because it could have just been illegally promoting gambling.
Correct, but there is a healthy dose in this of won't someone think of the children, which I take some amount of umbrage with. The
children.
The 3 games listed are Counter-Strike 2, Team Fortress 2, and Dota 2, all of which have identical. For legal purposes, the loot boxes in all 3 of those games are identical enough that we're going to deal with them as a lump, right? That's a really great question. When did Team Fortress begin to use this? That's actually in the filing. It was in the second year of Team Fortress 2's existence, so like 2009, 2010, somewhere in there.
So for a while.
Yeah.
But again, the interesting part we're going to find out is that it isn't just the loot boxes, because many, many, many other companies do loot boxes. And I mean, actually, the oldest reference I can think to of loot boxes is packs of baseball cards. At least I'm sure there were many things before that. And then after that, packs of Magic cards. Like, buying a thing that gives you a possibility of things within it is not particularly new.
Right. So, if we go down here, the Valve's most popular game, the process resembles a slot machine with an animated spinning wheel that eventually rests on a selected item. Okay, that's fine. The randomly selected virtual items have no in-game functionality, but can be sold online for money, with one item reportedly being sold for more than $1 million. This obfuscates things just a touch, but is technically true. And this is, from what I've read, the heart of the lawsuit, because again, it's not actually loot boxes, right? You can think about there are other companies that do more volume of business in the form of loot boxes on the daily than Valve does, right? I am 100% sure that Hoyo, for instance, makes more money per day from gacha pulls across its suite of gacha games than Valve does off of loot boxes, almost assuredly, right? Because that is more fundamental to the experience of playing those games than Valve's are, because by everyone's admission, including the Attorney General, the loot boxes are not necessary to play the game. They are an additional optional form of monetization in this case.
Right. And that's kind of where, like, the no in-game functionality goes to that part of it. But theoretically, the loot boxes could have game functionality.
Sure.
And this would still be, if it was set up this same way, like, that's kind of an irrelevant fact.
There is some... The way the law is written in New York specifically appears to exclude cases where, or games where skill is involved in wagering and receiving a payout. And so I think they are doing this to cleanly cut and draw a definitive line to say that this practice does not participate in that carve out. What you might think of as the pinball carve out. Pinball was a hotly debated early gaming / gambling discussion in the United States because you could receive something of monetary value, a free play, in exchange for your score, right? You could get enough score that you could earn a free play. And the what was being alleged was that it was a form of gambling because it was totally random. And the argument that pinball players, creators, and owners made was that no, it's skill. And demonstrations were performed in front of Congress that pinball is a skill. And so there's sort of been a carve out in a lot of things for that sort of exception. And I think this is an attempt to cut it cleanly from that.
Right. But I was thinking the way a lot of other loot boxes, like if this was like Magic cards where it's like, hey, cool, I have a grizzly bear, I can now play a grizzly bear.
Right.
You know, if this was, I now have this kind of gun, I can now wield this kind of gun.
Right.
Like that would have game function, or, you know, if this was Dota doing when the loot boxes had characters in it.
Right.
But again, the interesting part here, actually, the 111 most interesting part can be sold online for money.
Yes.
And as we keep going here, that's going to be the big difference where almost every other game that does loot boxes, it isn't gambling because you can put money in, money goes in, pool of possible things you could get, you get a selection of those, they come out, but then those are attached to you, the player, or your account. And there's no way for you to do anything with those other than use them.
Right. Or to...
You cannot take them out somewhere and sell them, because at that point, money goes in, random thing comes out, may or may not be more valuable. Oh, look, you got the valuable one, I can take and sell. That's the loop of money goes in, you get reward. You basically cash out reward.
Yeah. We got some very relevant, good questions here in chat that I'll pull up. Is Valve based in New York? No. This lawsuit is on the basis that there are customers in New York who use Valve's products. And that gives...
The same way that if DraftKings was illegal in New York for betting, New York would be saying, hey, you're allowing people to bet here using your online platform. You should be excluding them because gambling is illegal here.
Correct. And then, of course, the Bull and Second Last asked the same question, seconds apart on two different platforms. How does selling the account come into play there? That's a great question. In this case, from a legal perspective, it doesn't, because the company has already said that that's not something that they allow, and that the consequence for that is termination of the account. So it's not... It is
because it's against their terms of service, and that they do enforce that if they can find it. New York doesn't have anything to sue them on there. Correct. The worst they could say is you're not enforcing this strictly enough, and that's a whole different thing than you are engaged in illegal gambling.
Correct. So the goal, as usual, and we need to remember that this is a press release written by someone who believes that they are in the right and are shooting for the moon. Is that the Attorney General James seeks to permanently stop Valve from continuing to promote illegal gambling in its games and to pay disgorgement and fines. That disgorgement and fines, I'll jump ahead a tiny bit, is 100% of all of the money lost by anyone in the state of New York to Valve's gambling practices, plus an amount equal to like several times that as a fine, plus court costs. They're never going to get it, but she has to ask for the maximum, or like, and then they start negotiating down from there. If something... For those unfamiliar,
this is a negotiation tactic. You pretty much never get more than you ask for, but you almost always get less. So you're encouraged, based on how the system works, to ask for your maximum amount.
Yes. Right. Okay. So there's a whole bunch of other stuff. A thing that we're also gonna say is fact, and we're sort of in the background of this. We are also working on making this a potential script, so that when we talk about this, that is part of this, is our conversation with you, and our conversation about this may make it into a script at some point. So things that we have to make sure we're on the up and up are this is a real problem, right? Illegal gambling can be harmful and lead to serious addiction problems, especially for young people. Yes, absolutely. No one is disputing that.
Yeah. This is actually physiological. Like,
yeah,
people at a certain point do not have a developed prefrontal cortex.
yeah,
Like, this is just how humans work, and it takes a while.
yeah.
Like, in some cases, 20 years for that to really develop, and therefore younger people are more susceptible to things that would call poor impulse control.
Right, and
they're more likely to get hooked on gambling or other things like that.
Right,
that is just how humans are programmed, or how humans are built on the hardware.
Right. So we're not. I think, and nobody is disputing that, right? Like. Yeah. These are all we're still very much in like the facts section, right? So facts are Valve exists, the state of New York exists, Valve makes those games operate in
loot boxes
with loot boxes as described.
Games are sometimes played by children.
Sometimes children purchase these items with money that they have acquired. That's a little bit of a loose one, because adding money to a Steam account does generally require a credit card. You could buy it with cash from a store, but that is hard to both prove that it's children. That gets weird, right? So yes, humans just need to download more RAM. Okay, so one of the big deals is that, and this actually happened like last year, is that the market cap on tradable Counter-Strike skins was reportedly over $4.3 billion. And this is where it gets kind of weird. Because
can we get one step before that?
Yeah, sure.
For those unfamiliar, since it was saying cosmetic, hey, Will.
Yeah.
See that $1 million picture in front of us for a thing that sold for $1 million?
Yeah.
Having not playing Counter-Strike 2 in any recent amount. Actually, I only played Counter-Strike 1.
Sure.
That looks like an AK to me.
Yep.
Why is that worth $1 million? Or excuse me, not even why is it worth $1 million? What is different about that gun?
That is very good. Yeah, that's a very good question. So we have my mouse on screen, fortunately. So the entire skin, everything that could be considered the gun, is a skin.
Okay.
The reason,
so instead of like League of Legends where I buy a character skin for Malzahar or Garen or Lux, I get skins for weapons in Counter-Strike?
Yes.
Okay.
Including the knife. The most desirable item is a knife because they are the rarest. Classification, individual items are rarer.
Okay, cool. I can accept that I've played Magic. I can accept that there are rarities in loot boxes.
Okay, great. This one in particular is I believe, if I'm reading this correctly, this is a stat track factory new weapon. Stat track in-game stats cosmetically, X number of kills, X number of kill streaks, X number of double kills, etc. These are common. Dota cosmetics have them. Team Fortress cosmetics have them. Yes.
So this means if I'm using that skin, it tracks my stats during that time and associates them with the skin?
Yes. For me, if I traded it to someone else, it would reset and they would have personalized stat tracking.
Okay.
Factory new is the quality of the wear and tear on the skin. The wear and tear on the skin varies and is a float, I believe, that is generated when the skin is generated. Factory new is just the rarest of those. So this is a rare skin with an upgrade in the highest quality.
Okay.
And then here's where it gets really weird, and we're not going to go too deep into this. The metal, so the wood pattern is probably set on this.
Okay.
The metal patterning is a randomized selection from a texture. Some skins are unique, like one of ones, because of this portion of the texture that they are like using.
Accessing, okay.
Right. So this one is
Or
considered
referencing
highly
is the better
valuable
word.
because of the portions of the texture that are being shown, right? And that is a personal aesthetic choice, right? There isn't any objective market in which this is valued at $1 million. They didn't go to like CSGO Antiques Roadshow to appraise this at like $1 million, right? Someone probably did it to say that they had a skin that they paid $1 million for, right? Which is the other weird part of this, right? That this is being used as a piece of evidence because someone made a stupid choice, right?
Someone made a prestige play for a very rare thing.
Right.
Okay, so basically what I'm getting here is that me playing this game, I wouldn't have noticed anything at all. But for people who play the game, this is a rare enough cosmetic that they would be very interested in acquiring it. In this case, someone so for $1 million because of its rarity.
Yes.
So it is purely people paying for fun cosmetics.
Yes.
But this also implies there is some way to trade them.
Yes, there is. So there are two methods, three methods, but they really boil down to two for trading these. And this is, again, part of the key part that differentiates Valve.
For example, in League, I can't trade a Garen skin.
Correct.
I believe I can buy a skin as a gift.
Right.
But again, once the skin is delivered to the person, it is bound to that account.
Yes.
They cannot retrade it or you cannot gift a skin you own. You have to go buy something separately, and it is a one-time transfer.
Yes. So,
okay, so this is not the case. Tell me more about that.
So there are two ways. We'll deal with the simple case first, the more complicated case, then sort of the overlap between the two. The simple case, you have a skin for an AK-47, but you don't like using the AK-47. You like using the op, and I have a skin for the op, but I don't like using the op. I like using the AK-47. We're friends on Steam. We can trade.
Okay.
I can say, hey, Jeff, that's a pretty cool AK-47 skin you have. I have this op skin. I know you're an opper. Let's swap.
Cool. Right. And then there's some easy mechanism that we can, within Steam, swap.
Correct.
Does this cost us anything?
No. That is, there is a non-monetary trade option. Alternatively, I could go on Reddit and say, hey, I'm looking to trade this op skin for an AK-47 skin, and I could find someone and I could become their friend. That takes a little longer because Valve has put certain restrictions in place for account security, so that it takes a while for trades to be processed, and it takes longer for new friends to be authorized to trade as sort of account protection features, so someone doesn't hack your account and immediately empty it of all of your valuable stuff.
Makes sense.
Cool.
Good on Valve. Okay.
Yeah. The other way is I could go into the Steam Marketplace. And the Steam Marketplace is a... Actually, I should probably bring this up. Let's do that. Let's actually go on the Steam and let's look at the Marketplace. I should have had that pulled up ahead of time. I do apologize, chat. Give me 1 second. Let me pull this up. Great. Oink.
So just pointing out that unless you're deeply into this, for a lot of people, all of the cosmetics seems ridiculous. But of course, I will counter to that people who spend a lot of time in a thing, pretty much anything, be it video games or something else, tend to like to collect social things.
Yes.
Human brain also wired for small displays of status.
Right.
Like when I play League, I like using skinned characters.
Right.
It's fun.
So here's the other option that's available. And this is all live data from Steam. Okay. I'm going to make this a little bit.
Actually, hold on. Let me finish that thought.
Yep.
But that being said, the prices for some of these do seem into the ludicrous.
Right.
Okay. So here, what do we got? Okay. These prices seem more reasonable. $8 for.
Sure. So I'm, let's say that I am an opper and I want to buy this op. I can see that there is a market here.
Oh, okay. Wow. They even show you that's pretty cool.
Right. So I can see what the lowest. This is very similar to WoW's auction house in form.
Except it's using real money.
Except it's using real money. Yes, correct. So these are options that are for sale. $46.09 is the current lowest. These are additional stickers or alterations that have been applied to that skin. This has a charm on it, right? Some people do or don't care about that. And I can select from a range of these. I can even boot up the game and inspect it there. And there is price tracking, right? This is how many sold on the 10th.
Yeah.
7 sold at $48, and I can track it, and it moves up and down, kind of like a real market, because it is a real market, and I can sell it, and then that balance, this is where it starts getting tricky, is applied to my Steam account with no way to withdraw it. But
actually, hold that thought for a second, Will.
Yeah.
Can you then use, then use that to buy other things on Steam? So for example, I could sell this, whatever that skin was you're looking at, take my $46 and go use it to buy other skins for the game. Could I use it to go buy Slay the Spire 2?
Yes.
Okay. So I can use it anywhere within Steam.
Correct. Including on things that are physical, because you purchase things like the Steam Deck or the Index or, the new GameCube, if and when that ever actually exists, with the same purchase method that you buy Slay the Spire 2 or a key or
Grand Theft Auto. So there's theoretically a way to get out. Actually, I suppose then I could use it to buy games I gift to somebody else.
Yes, you could do that as well.
So there are minor ways to cash out, but no real way to say I've done $1,000 worth of skin thing and I want that in my Bank of America bank account.
Sort of. Because that's where we get into the third case.
The
third case is a synthesis of these two. And it involves another part of Valve. So this $1 million skin was not sold on the community market. And I know this for a fact because you can't sell things that expensive on the community market. There is an upper end limit. I believe it's like less than $2,000 that you can hold. And the reason that limit exists is that any more per individual account, and Valve would have to register as a bank, and Valve does not want to register as a bank, and you do not want Valve to register as a bank under federal legislation. So that's not going to happen. So then the question is, but if you can't do a transaction that big, how did this happen? Well, Valve has an API that lets third-party sites view your inventory. And we won't go too deep into the technical details, but suffice it to say, there are websites where if I wanted $1 million skin, I could send $1 million to the website and say, here's my $1 million. I would like this person's skin. They give me the skin. The website gives them the $1 million minus a cut for processing the transaction. And now we use the trade mechanism to do that. We wait through all of the holds and the everything else, and then the website processes the
website holds the money in escrow as a neutral third party.
That's correct.
Meaning that, like, the part before, like, the biggest part for that store is, you can't be scammed when you're buying within Steam because Steam is authenticating. This is indeed a virtual item that works in Counter-Strike 2. Like, and will hold the item and the money in escrow. So no one player can take it and run off with it. They are safe trades.
Right.
That is what these intermediary third parties are doing, is allowing the safe trades. Otherwise, nobody would actually pay large amounts for a thing because they'd constantly be getting scammed on the internet.
Now, there are two things are true here. One, Valve is enabling these things with the use of the API.
Yes. Without the API, this could not exist.
Correct.
And this providing it.
Correct. And they bypass Steam's trading limit by using the trade function rather than the market function and transacting the business elsewhere. So because Steam allows you to give a gift, or because Steam doesn't check the value of two items, that just lets you do the trade. You can do the trade and then leave a bag of money somewhere, essentially. So there's that. And that is a thing that Steam is enabling with all of this. However, and I really want to stress the however, it would still, even without the third-party sites, fall under the scope of the lawsuit that is being filed here. So it is true that this occurs, that we have $1 million skins, and that is being used here correctly by the Attorney General to prove a point about the amount of money that is being transacted here to draw attention to the case. It is also true that merely having the marketplace, which transacts business in dollars, is enough for this to be within the bounds of the lawsuit as filed, at least in my understanding. I am not a lawyer, but I did spend all morning reading. So
and that is because I could theoretically log into Counter-Strike, buy a loot box for, I'm just gonna say $5. I'm throwing out random money accounts here because I don't know. Get something that is worth $1,000 and cash it out in the marketplace, and I have basically put in my token, won a thing, cashed it out in some way that meaningfully gives me spendable money, and therefore that constitutes gambling. If there was no way for me to sell those things, that would technically not be gambling, because I'm getting a random item that can only be used in game, which is basically the purpose of what I'm paying for.
Right. Okay. So let's address this. But the system doesn't allow you to withdraw the money. I don't think that matters here. You're correct. Valve's built-in system does not allow it to not allow someone to withdraw money from their balance. However, you are exchanging that for objects of real monetary value in a one-to-one with money.
Well, let's make it super easy. Pretend there was a Valve credit card that can only be spent on the Valve shop. Congratulations, you just had $1,000, you put in $5 and you won a thing, and you have $1,000 on your credit card that you can only spend, or hell, it's a Nordstrom's card, it's an Amazon card. Like, the fact that you can then go take that money and spend it on the store to buy other things equivalently is enough to be considered a cash out. The third party site lets you cash out. It's in your bank account. But there's plenty of legal precedent that basically says, sure, you can only spend it here, but that is still spendable money.
Let's talk about a very fascinating exception. And an example from elsewhere in the world that illustrates this point perfectly.
Okay.
Chat, have you heard of a thing called pachinko?
Ching, 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 chinko.
Right. Pachinko.
I have, because my wife is Japanese and we go to Japan.
Correct. So in Japan, gambling is very tightly restricted. There is a special cultural carve-out for pachinko, which is, if you've never seen a pachinko machine, I'm going to oversimplify it. It is vertical, flipperless pinball. Your goal is to get you fire off.
By vertical, he means gravity powered. Thing at top, thing goes down.
Yeah. So the way that it works there is you pay an amount of money for a number of steel balls that are used to play the game. You receive extra
like a box of them.
Yeah, it's a giant, big, heavy box. You then play the game for a while. You receive back a number of balls in relation to how well you scored. And then you take those to the counter and you say, I'm all done. I would like my my prize, please. And they give you a ticket or a coupon or a fun little like figurine or something. And it's not worth anything to most people. But if you go next door, there is a...
And it is always next door.
Yes, correct.
Sorry, carry on.
Right, it's always right next door. You go next door and you will find someone who very conveniently wants to purchase that item for you for a sum of money. Convenient, totally different establishment.
Yep.
Different establishment.
There may be a doorway between the two of them and you don't even have to walk outside.
Correct.
Building 1 has pachinko machines.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Suite number 1 has pachinko machines.
Yeah.
Suite number 2 have people that will buy the tokens you can get from that in exchange for prizes and or money.
Correct. So that's gambling, right? I think we would say that that's gambling,
Yeah.
right?
It is hitting the letter of the law. The same establishment is not allowing you to do both.
Right.
But it is not hitting the spirit of the law.
Correct.
Which is, hey, I walked next door.
Right. So in this case, if all I could buy there was Steam hardware, I think we would still call it gambling, right? Even if I couldn't get actual dollars, if I could get
well, it's because with hardware, you could then sell the hardware to someone else.
I could pawn it, right?
It is a thing of value.
Yeah.
The same with virtual. Like,
yeah.
If I can go give 20 people copies of Slay the Spire, my 20 friends, because I earned enough or gambled enough money for that, correct, they might also give me something for it. Or it's.
Yep. So.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
The item is fungible.
Correct. Yeah. So, and then later on in this press briefing, we get a whole bunch of the public-facing, highly optics motivated reasons that the Attorney General is doing this specifically. This is part of a general push by the Attorney General of the state of New York to sort of push back against the amount of gambling because of things like sports betting and prediction markets. Again, Polymarket, Kalashi, and then any number of air quotes reputable sports betting apps on your phone, right?
Yeah. And there is a question as to why they're going after Valve and not sites that do it much more egregiously.
Correct. And so that's kind of where we're at, right? Is this thing. So the great question. What about Roblox? That gets more complicated. Roblox has a whole bunch of problems, and I don't want to bog us down too much. Roblox is particularly weird and hard to deal with and could be its own episode on this. Suffice it to say, yes, they're not choosing to go against Roblox, so I haven't read quite as much into the applicable laws there, but yes, it's a thing.
Does Roblox let you cash out?
Yes, Roblox will pay you. But then it gets sort of washed through the idea that you're providing a service and you're receiving payment for the service as a 1099, even if you're not of age. It gets really weird. Roblox is super weird on this. There's a bunch of videos on it, on Roblox's business practices as they pertain to like employment and children and paying out and how that works. Yeah.
Wait, but isn't that more for I made a game and the game I can make money off the game, not I can bet within a game and get money?
Yes, but because they can push all of it through the same revenue stream, I'm pretty sure they can wash it in the guise of it being an employment payout. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I can see extra hurdles in okay. So
yeah,
maybe we'll come to a thing on Roblox, but and explain on Roblox. But
yeah,
for the moment, and again, the big thing here for Valve is the only one that stood up a marketplace that allows players to directly trade not just between themselves, but to sell things for real money.
Yeah.
Like Blizzard isn't getting hit for Hearthstone. League isn't getting, or Wizards of the Coast isn't getting hit for Magic the Gathering. Like there's a whole bunch of other groups that equivalently do loot box style things, but don't have the cash out mechanism. And we're excluding the physical Magic cards, Will, because that's its own whole separate cultural thing, unless you want to say a thing right here.
Yeah. There actually is there is a Wizards of the Coast property that does exactly this, and it's Magic the Gathering Online, and I'm willing to bet that the reason that they didn't hit MitGo with this is that no one understands MitGo, and MitGo is too small. But technically speaking, Wizards has a property that does exactly all of the things that they're talking about in different dollar amounts. It's not nearly as big, so it's probably not worth it to go after them. But Magic the Gathering Online does all of these things. It has randomized loot boxes that contain cards that can be traded for money using external things. You can cash them in. They have a value, right? Like it's denominated.
So what you're saying is WotC Legal is watching this with keen interest.
I would say so, yes. And yeah. So
again, just to reiterate the point though,
yeah,
if the Valve marketplace did not exist,
right,
there would be no lawsuit.
correct.
Like it isn't the fact that it's the loot boxes, it's the loot boxes with the possibility of cashing out. And because there is a rarity component, a random rarity component in the middle, pay money, get loot box, item of some small 0 to large amount comes out of loot box, can take and sell. That's the loop right there,
right,
that the whole lawsuit is predicated on.
Yes.
Again, without the marketplace.
Yes.
And especially without, like, the third party marketplace is what makes this egregious in some cases, but the marketplace itself is enough to expose them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it would be. Yes, I agree. I'm trying to think if there's a world where it could be laundered enough through through like another currency, but I don't think it would, right? Like if it was in Steam bucks, right? Or Steamolians or whatever, right? Like Steam clouds.
Yeah, and it's still the question is why Valve? And, you know, part of this also that we can kind of get to is the New York Attorney General seems to not like video games.
That's correct. The New York Attorney General really doesn't like video games, and as part of this, she's got like 2.5 lines on the video games cause violence, glorify guns and stuff, ignoring, of course, that 2 of the 3 games cited are one of them is a MOBA that is high fantasy, one of them is a cartoon, and only CSGO has anything vaguely realistic with guns. But you know, this is the thing, right? So,
right, and so that may be one of the reasons why Valve and not going after. And the other one is, I think some of the other companies probably make New York money. Like I'm assuming DraftKings is taxed in a way that.
Okay, so I actually did a whole bunch of reading on this.
Okay.
There are 2 different, so prediction markets and sports betting are 2 different groups of legislation governed by 2 different groups of people.
Okay.
And the state of New York each state gets to do their own legislation with regard to sport betting. So New York already has their own whole sport betting legislation package, which is different and specific because the law which governs sport betting was struck down by the Supreme Court in a 6-3 decision in 2018. Hold, please.
It doesn't matter exactly when.
2018.
Okay.
I got it. I did my research. I have it right here.
You did? I'm impressed, by the way.
So that's its own whole thing. And then the prediction markets are actually governed by the United States Commodity Future Trading Commission and is a whole different thing. And neither of those are, strictly speaking, the same category as the kind of gambling that's being discussed here. They're in their own weird buckets. Which is why, like, there's a difference here, too, in kind, is that those are specifically covered under specific carve-outs in the law, and this isn't. So she gets a clean shot at this specifically.
Right. By the way, chat is going wild on both YouTube and Twitch, basically citing that there's lots of research that so far it says there is no real connection between violent video games and actual real world violence, and that there are many other depictions in media that are more graphic and or more intense.
That's correct. This is we'll get to we'll pull up in one moment Valve's response to this. And that is a key part of their response is there's no data to support that. You just keep saying that and it keeps not being true. So yes. What about the company that allows you to bet on tragedy? That would be Polymarket. That's a prediction market. And that's one of the reasons that it's not covered under the same thing, is that it is a market that trades in a commodity, which is cryptocurrency, and it's obfuscated by enough layers that it's gambling without being capital G legally gambling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's correct. It's Dutch tulips for modern audiences. That's correct.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
I was just looking at tulips the other day, Will, our episodes on that.
Yeah.
They hold up well.
Yep. Okay. So this is what's being alleged, right?
Mhm.
And why we think they're going after Valve. Now, this has been out long enough that Valve has responded.
Shoot, while you start on that, I'm going to grab a thing.
Yep.
Keep going.
So, Valve makes many of the same points that we made well before we were prepping for this before Valve's statement came out, and I agree with a lot of what they said. So, it mentions that physical products include things like Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and I do love this, Labubu. I do love, just like as a bit of levity in this, that they're like, all right, so wait, hold on a second. All of these other things do this too, so do, and then grab one off screen, Labubus. It doesn't, you wouldn't hurt the Labubus, would you? Labubus, right? Like that's, no, it's not wrong, right? It is a silly loot box, but I also love that like Valve just like grabbed a Labubu and held it in front of themselves and was like, this is a shield, it's a Labubu. Anyway, okay, cool. Yes, that's right. I also, yep, I love this. Labubu is now a word in an official discoverable document. That is correct. Yeah, right, yeah. So, okay, so they bring up the physical arguments: baseball cards, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, Labubu, and then they also bring up that they're entirely optional, right? Just because the items in the box are purely cosmetic, there's no disadvantage, right? They're also saying
that, by the way, is kind of a nice obfuscation. Like nobody has to gamble.
Right, correct. That is an obfuscation on Valve's part, right? That like they're So I do at no point, this is kind of interesting. At no point, as far as I can tell so far, has Valve said no, loot boxes aren't gambling.
Mm-hmm.
What they've said is that they don't believe that they violate New York gambling laws, which is different than not being gambling, right?
Yes.
So like that fact, right, seems to be undisputed, but Valve doesn't want to say it because they're smart, because they know that saying it makes them look bad, right? But there is a
Oh, Will.
Yeah.
I forgot an important question back from a while ago. I asked, hey, if you and I swap skins, there's no charge.
Correct.
If I list something on the Valve's marketplace,
Yes.
do they take any money off of that transaction?
Oh, they do indeed, Jeff. They do take a percentage-based cut of every sale on the Steam marketplace.
Okay, so it is gambling, and Valve gets a cut of every transaction when people cash out.
Yes.
Sorry, that was an important thing I just realized I did not ask.
Yes. Yeah. So they're also saying they have also said that they are this is again true, but not the point, right? This is a very, by the way, my hat to the PR team at Valve. This is a masterfully crafted document full of true things that are not quite saying the thing that they appear to be saying, right? Okay, so they have shut down many sites that gamble with Steam items in violation of the Steam subscriber agreement. Okay, all of those things are true, but that's not what's at stake here. What's at stake is the ability to process transactions in excess of the amount of money that is being allowed to be sent back and forth by Valve. That's not what they said. What they said was they shut down a bunch of gambling lawsuits or gambling websites, right? So again, they're not really litigating the point that the New York Attorney General is making. They are saying a true thing that sounds like they are, but they're not, because they're not, right? We also share with our efforts to combat fraud and the theft of user items and our extraordinary measures to stop gambling sites from taking advantage of Steam accounts and Valve game items. We don't cooperate with gambling sites. Again, good, true, not the point. Today, we blocked over 1 million Steam accounts are being misused by third parties in connection with gambling, fraud, and theft. Again, good, true, still not the point. We haven't talked about the market, right? Because the markets are really the key here. Because the gambling that the New York Attorney General alleges is happening on Steam. The third-party sites are just the transactional part of paying out. And Valve isn't addressing that at all, right? So and like as a nice one, we forbid any gambling related businesses to participate in or sponsor tournaments for our games. Okay, cool, great. But like that's again not the point. Right? So I feel like this is very interesting in that again, Valve is saying true things, but not
They're saying a lot of good stuff they've done in issues that are tangentially related.
Yes. Right. So then
and everybody's happy they did those things. Like
yes. Yeah. Right. And I agree very much with Thunder here. When the AG made this about violence in video games, they did open the gates for Steam to just throw whatever else they wanted in, right? They were like, oh, it's non sequitur hour? By the way, look at all of the puppies we've saved with the money from our loot boxes. Look at that, Attorney General of the state of New York. What are you going to do now? Right? Like, sure, if we're going to play the non sequitur.
That probably was really good PR on their part.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to broaden the issue.
They absolutely
So again, these are both performative, or press releases are always performative.
Yes, correct. This is another performative piece. Now, this is probably the most important paragraph to me because I think this is the true part. Right? This is why I think a lot of this paragraph is, I think, A, the reason that Valve is being targeted, and B, the reason that a lot of consumers like the Valve model the best for this kind of thing, and is also the reason that they're open to all of this, right? We have serious concerns with many of the alterations that the New York AG claims are necessary to make to our games. First, they seem to believe boxes and their contents should not be transferable. They appear to assume digital mystery boxes and items in our games are different from tangible items like baseball card packs, which contain random cards, and to take issue with the fact that users have the ability to transfer the items they receive through Steam trading or user-to-user sales on the community market. We think the transferability of a digital game item is good for consumers. It gives the user the ability to sell or trade an old or unwanted item for something else. In the same way an owner can sell or trade a tangible item like a Pokemon or baseball card. New York Attorney General proposes to take away users' ability to transfer their digital items from Valve games. Transferability is a right we believe should not be taken away, and we refuse to do that. Okay. So this is sort of the big sticking point here.
Yeah.
Because this is good for consumers, right? You have control over your digital assets, and you get to move them around how you want and sell them and control them.
In a way that, unlike Hearthstone,
right,
or once you buy a card, that card is locked to your account.
Yep.
This is saying it should not be. It should be more like physical cards.
Yep.
When you go buy a Magic card and when you pull your fifth copy of the same rare, you can be like, hey, I don't need all of these. Let me go sell a couple.
Exactly so. And I think Demonworks has a really great point. Using baseball cards is a very nice play there due to how tightly they're tied to Americana. Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
They're not using the idea of a baseball card, right? Also lets them be like, well, this is kind of like sports, and sports have gambling, right? Like it's using baseball cards as the primary analogy here is very good on Valve's part.
100%.
The problem here that Valve isn't addressing, because they can't really address it, is that it's not like those things. It's actually not like a baseball card.
How so, Will? How so, Will?
Well, you see, we'll use magic cards as a quick example. I have a deck of magic cards here in front of me that I shuffle as a fidget while we talk, right? This deck of magic cards is mine. I own it. I hold it in my hand. If Wizards of the Coast shut down right now, if Wizards of the Coast shut down right now and never made another magic card ever
Knock on
again,
wood, that won't happen.
That won't happen. But if they did, I would still own this deck of magic cards. It's my deck of magic cards, and I could still play Magic with other people who have a deck of magic cards, and its use is not contingent on the existence of the company that made it.
Yep. Okay.
And when I trade them, I can sell them without getting permission from Wizards of the Coast, without giving Wizards of the Coast a cut. I can trade them to a shop. I can trade them to a friend. I can sell them on the internet. I can sell them on eBay or Card Trader or Mana Pool or wherever.
You could go to a place that sells, man, my blind just, that sells fireplaces and sell them as kindling. Like, it is your choice of what to do with them.
That is correct. So I have full control and ownership over this deck of magic cards. I don't with the contents of my Steam inventory. I don't have full control and ownership over them, because if Valve stopped working, if Valve shut down Steam tomorrow, I would have no claim, I would have no control over those items. Furthermore,
and Valve terms of services are explicit on this.
And furthermore, I could get banned, right? I could get banned from, if I get banned from playing competitive Magic for cheating on camera, that's a fun recent bit of Magic drama that I was hilariously amused by. I can still sell my cards. If I get banned from Steam for cheating, I lose access to my stuff, because it's not really my stuff, right? Furthermore, if Valve stops supporting Team Fortress 2, all of my unusual hats aren't usable. If I can't beat...
And suddenly have no value.
Right, have no value and cannot be accessed, because if no one can play Team Fortress 2 because Team Fortress 2 doesn't exist anymore, then those items don't exist anymore either, right? It's what we're really talking about is that these items, these cosmetics, are licenses to use a cosmetic item in a particular context that is wholly controlled by the company you purchased the item from, or that the item was purchased from originally, right? So there is a distinct difference here in the kind of thing that they're talking about and the kind of thing that they're doing, because all of this only works inside Valve's walled garden with Valve's permission. And while we kind of
say... Valve sufferance.
Yeah. While we may oh, good guy Valve, good guy Gaben, sure, but it is still not the best for that all to be true, right? So it's not exactly the same. It's close. It's very close, but different in a substantial enough way that I feel like, and they know it, right? To be clear, they know that this is a problem, right? This is not like a shocker to Valve, right? They are going to make the press release and they're going to do their darndest, right? Because as we've discussed before, Valve's legal team is a tank full of lawyer-eating sharks. Valve gets sued enough that they just have a legal team that isn't lawyer sharks. It's the sharks that eat the lawyer sharks, because they get sued enough that they're used to it, right? Because they have a lot of money and people try and take shots at Valve all the time, right?
Yeah.
So
and this whole area, by the way, is tricky. Like, to your general consumer,
yes,
Will and I's ability to go swap skins with each other when we're playing the game is only a perk.
Right.
Like, hey, that's a thing I can't do in most other games. You know, when your buddy starts a game and you're like, here's a cool skin for you to use. I can't do that in League in the same way. That doesn't mean that it doesn't come inherently with other problems. But part of me very much believes that Valve being Valve They're like, hey, this is a neat thing. This is a thing we can give people. Part of me also believes, it being Valve, that they're like, and here's a great way we can make extra money along the way with it.
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, that might also be why they have public opinion on their side, right? They get hit by so many frivolous lawsuits. It's no surprise people think, oh, another one, huh? Yeah, exactly. So, and I think that that's really what goes into the rest of their statement here, right? They're also bringing up the New York AG gathering additional information. And this is purely a get everyone on our side move, right? This is 100% purely like this is kind of a non sequitur, right? But again, this is very much like and they want us to collect a whole bunch of invasive information, and us, good guy Valve, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You don't want us collecting your information. You don't want the New York Attorney General to have your information on the off chance you might be someone from somewhere else using a VPN, right? So this is a whole thing.
Wow, Will, you just gave me a whole side thing.
Yeah.
How many people, if the lawsuit starts looking bad, are going to VPN to New York to make it look like they're playing from there to try and collect on some sort of settlement?
It's a great question. I don't know. Right.
Sorry, my game designer brain just realized that possibility. Yeah. And
right. You would probably need to have an address registered in the state of New York.
We'll see.
Yeah.
How about an IP address that...
Yeah. And then they do the, like, of course we respect New York's right to determine the laws, and we believe that we're following all the laws. And if you pass new laws, then we'll follow them. But this isn't a new law that you've passed. Thing, right? Okay, cool, great. And then also you took a pot shot, so we're going to take a pot shot back. This case is about mystery boxes. We feel the need to address the comments made by the AG about games where violence of children. Those extraneous comments are a distraction and a mischaracterization we've all heard before. Numerous studies throughout the years have concluded there is no link between media and real-world violence, and many studies highlight the beneficial impact of games to users. You gave them an opening, and you didn't think they were going to take it? I don't know what she was doing. Like, that of all of the things she put in that press release, right? I can see the use of most of them. That just, I don't know why she did the video.
I can tell you why. Because there's a whole community of non-game players that are also going to see the lawsuit.
Yeah, that's true.
And, and
they're not going
like
to see this
Fox
response.
News and others are going to be happily take that little bit of red meat and chomp around on it.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, there are lots of groups that like to try and offset. No, the things we like, they're not the actual things causing the violence. It's this convenient scapegoat over here.
Right. Yeah. And so they're deciding to go to court. That's the other big one.
Actually, and there are plenty of groups that would have worked out a settlement.
Correct.
For this, just straight up.
Yeah, because it's cheaper.
And honestly, the New York might have done the same. They would have found something to take the win. Valve would have done something to say, this is going to cost us X. We're going through with a lawsuit, might potentially cost us Y, and they'd do their risk analysis, and there would be a happy settlement that both sides would get to put out a positive spinning press release.
Right.
This is one where Valve's throwing a big F you at them and saying, no, we believe in this strongly and we are willing to go to court.
Yep.
And we are willing to spend money to do so.
Yep.
Because these things are not cheap.
Correct. They are very not cheap. So let's do one more piece of like dig in, right? So we've kind of talked about like what the allegations are. This is the actual complaint. This is the actual complaint from the AG of New York website. This is the full text of the complaint. You can read it for yourself. It's reasonably readable. Most of it is the first 145 paragraphs are literally information that most gamers know already, but they have to put in the record because the court doesn't know them officially. It's mostly like, this is what a loot box is. This is how much a key costs. This is how Valve makes money. It's essentially what we spent the past like hour doing, right? Is the first 145 paragraphs. Okay, cool, great, awesome. They're making 3 key arguments here, and I wanted to just make sure that we're all on the same page. Three key arguments. Number one, that it is unconstitutional under the New York State Constitution because the Constitution prohibits lotteries or the sale of lottery tickets, pool sailing, bookmaking, or any other kind of gambling with specific exceptions. Lotteries operated by the state, pari-mutuel betting on horse races, casino gambling at a prescribed number of licensed facilities, and bingos and other games of chance conducted by authorized nonprofits. And it's not any of those, and it's not skill-based. So under those claims, they are saying that it's unconstitutional under the New York State Constitution. And although I don't like it, I think this is correct. If loot boxes are gambling, they're gambling. You, in this case specifically, right?
Because again, of that loop where valuable thing can come out and get turned into money.
Right. It has monetary value and can be turned around, right? That is technically that is a form of gambling that is unconstitutional under the New York State Constitution, at least as I'm reading it. There might be some, again, not a lawyer, but like on the outset, this looks like there's a point there, right? Cool, great, awesome. Number two, this is the executive and injunctive relief of repeated illegal acts or persistent illegality. And then this is promoting gambling in the second degree, which is essentially advertising for gambling. And this is another one where the market comes into play because Valve is profiting from people receiving money from the loot boxes. They are profiting from gambling that other people are doing. So it counts. This
I can see the advances gambling activity and a person profits from gambling activity in there.
Correct.
Both of which, yeah.
Correct. And then the last one is knowingly advances or profits from unlawful gambling activity, which essentially is you're an illegal bookie and you know it. This one, I don't think this is it. I feel like this isn't gonna stick. But I don't know, right? This is essentially you're the bookkeeper for all of these illegal wagers, therefore you're responsible for them. So I don't know, but my sense is that this one might be a little easier to get out of because the knowingly advancing or profiting from unlawful gambling activity, Valve can be like, we're pretty sure we were under the law, and they could probably make that stick. But but again, she's going to go for it because yeah, of course she's going to go for it. She's got again, she's the attorney general. She's supposed to go for the maximum she thinks she can get stick. Right. So we end up in this place where, yes, correct, 100%. Dark Wolf absolutely has it. Intent is harder to gauge than the thing itself. Yes, right. They'll get them on intent here, or they'll get out on intent here, right? If anything, at least in my understanding. So I think my biggest problem with this, personally, and we can embiggen and get back to the coffee shop. Is this thing that Kata is saying, right? And I think I agree with this, right? That Magic is the same thing. It should be looked at with suspicion that Magic is a gambling game, which is primarily aimed at children. So there's two problems, right? One, yes, true. Two, not all look at what they're doing isn't a valid legal defense, unfortunately. Right? Valve can't go, nuh-uh, this isn't fair. They're doing the thing too. Why aren't you looking at them? Right?
Yeah, bandwagon effect, or well, everyone's doing it.
Right.
Like if 5 people run through a stoplight, that doesn't mean that person number 3 can't be taken to court.
Correct. And then the other question is,
it's still good for setting precedent and other things.
Right.
But
And then unfortunately, I think the other problem here, right? The other problem is that while that is true, right? All of those things are true. What is not true is that Wizards doesn't profit from the post-market circulation. Right?
That is the really big thing with the physical part. Wizard can sell that and people go buy the Magic cards, but Wizards doesn't get 10% or whatever Valve takes every time somebody afterwards sells the Magic cards to each other.
Right.
And that's one of their single biggest defenses is we sell the thing.
Right.
We make no profit after that, you know. Right. They will get, what is a Magic part? $5 a whatever a booster costs nowadays.
Like $5 a booster retail.
Sure. They get $5 a booster, but no amount of money after that, no matter how valuable or not valuable the contents of the package are.
Right.
So that also means they don't profit off of a lucky score.
Right.
If for some reason they mixed one one ring into a set of cards, they might profit from people wanting to go buy that, but they don't profit from people getting it and then selling the one ring to each other.
Yeah. The secret lair defense is that you are paying for the altered art, not for the rarity of the cards, because all of them are priced similarly based on the number of cards and the art. You're paying for the art and the exclusivity, not the gameplay functionality. So difficult. I agree that there's a through line there, but it is difficult, right? So, but again, I think while that might be true, it is that if I want a Black Lotus, not only can I not buy one from Wizards, right? But I have to buy one from not Wizards, right? Like I can go out into the world and buy one, right? Why I would, I don't know. I'd rather buy a down payment on a house or a car or whatever, but like I could, right? And Wizards has no interaction with my ability to do that.
Yep.
If I want a knife skin, at some point, in order to obtain that digital item, I must interact with Valve. Valve has a controlling mechanism over the acquisition of that digital item, making it entirely within their purview. And I think that is the big difference here, right? Like I'm not litigating whether or not Magic is good or Pokemon is good or whatever. I'm saying that there is a substantive difference in why I believe the New York AG is going after Valve specifically here. And it is that Valve is in such complete control of the vertical from I get a crate, right? I buy a key, I open the crate. All of this takes place with inside Steam, right? I receive an item that Valve determines from that crate. Then I use Valve's system to either receive money or trade or whatever. And then I use it inside Valve's system versus these other elements, which all absolutely do have the crack-a-pack thing, right? But they don't benefit, right? And so that's really the part where I think it's very difficult for... I don't know how they're going to get out of this, actually. I'm going to be honest. Like, the more I've read into this, the more I think this is a pretty solid case. Yes, this is true. This would be true if they ever actually acknowledged aftermarket prices, which they're very careful to never do.
Plus, they still don't profit. Wizards does not profit off of the aftermarket manipulation. Let's just call it.
Yeah, and Wizards does partner with marketplaces, but that's generally so that they can control flow of cards. Wizards has pretty tight agreements with marketplaces on where in the world you are allowed to sell cards to. Or rather, not cards, sealed Wizards product. For instance, if you are a digital retailer based in the United States, you are allowed to sell singles wherever you want because that's not a Wizards product anymore. You are only allowed to sell sealed product within North America, as an example. Right.
Oh, then that's probably an arbitrage thing too.
Yeah.
Because a Magic, for those unfamiliar, there's a term called arbitrage, which basically, if Wizard sells a sealed pack for $5 in the US, for $6 in Japan, and for $2 in Brazil, that's because it's what they think the market will bear in each. If you could go to the Brazilian dealer and have them sell you magic packs for $2 instead of the $5 in North America, everybody will arbitrage. Everybody will go down to Brazil, equivalently, to do that.
Yeah.
And so and this is not just for magic cards. This is for all sorts of things happen that way.
Yeah.
Where there are regional prices, and part of your agreement as a vendor is which regions you are allowed to buy from or buy and sell to.
Yeah. And yes, they don't get a cut of the secondary market. The market does drive their sales. They absolutely play to it, but they don't openly acknowledge it, which makes a difference because they have a layer.
Even if they acknowledged it, they don't profit from it.
Well, so you could. There's a weird line that some people have tried to put forward before, that if they know that a card is worth a certain amount on the secondary market and they put that card in packs and they price the packs higher because that card, which is worth more in the secondary market, is in those packs, that they are in some way complicit in the secondary market in like an additional way. I agree it's very thin, but that line of thought has been put forward with Magic before. So Magic both doesn't profit from it and doesn't acknowledge what the secondary price of any given card is. So those are both true.
But again, it is a far line from Valve, who gets their whatever, the X% of every transaction of people selling the valuable stuff between each other.
Yes. We covered this earlier. It's a good time to bring it back around. Yes. You could transfer things to a third-party service that acts as a brokerage and holds funds in escrow while you transfer the item. However, while that is true, it is not in excess of the things that are already true about the marketplace, right? So, like, yes, that is a true thing. The marketplace still covers all of the things that the Attorney General is accusing them of. It's just not as flashy as the $1 million skin.
For those who didn't say, the Valve wallet's the Valve wallet. So if I put $5 in, get a rare loot case, sell a thing for $100, I now have $95 equivalently in my wallet that I can go, hey, take my payout from the gamble, go buy a copy of Slay the Spire, buy another copy to give to my friend Will, save up some money for a Gabe Cube. There are other things I can do with the money that make enough to count it as money. It is a spendable currency value that can be used for a large quantity of things, even if I can't take it out.
Yes. Let me move off. This isn't right on my face.
So let's see. Will, we talked about the lawsuit.
I have one more question I want to get to from Caliber.
Do it.
Caliber says, would a good question be what the New York State wants or would change if they theoretically win the lawsuit? Yes, I think this is a great question. So a couple of things. One, they want a lot of money from Valve. They want a truly ludicrous, mind-boggling sum of money from Valve. That's the big one. The other one is that they want Valve to change the way those three games, Counter-Strike, Dota, and Team Fortress, all do monetization, to either make it so that the goods are non-tradable, or so that they no longer use loot boxes, right? You might be able to purchase an item directly and then trade it, but you can't do loot box. So you can either have item trading and no loot boxes, or loot boxes and no item trading. And I don't think they care which one Valve does, but they want them to not have both at the same time.
Right. Because it is that combination that makes it. And 100%, I'll tell you, Valve will kill the marketplace so fast. Like, if Valve has the choice between marketplace or loot boxes, it's going to be loot boxes.
Yeah. Or the very simple one is that they will simply geofence New York from being able to trade.
Yeah.
That's the other one. They'll just geofence New York because they make so much money off of, like...
Oh, actually, excuse me. If this was a worldwide thing, they would lose the marketplace instantly.
Yeah.
If it's a New York thing, you're right. They will geofence New York.
Yeah, they'll just geofence New York so that you can't trade or use the market inside of New York. Or maybe you can't buy loot box keys in the state of New York. One or the other or both.
My guess is they'll just take the marketplace off.
Yeah.
Because they make you, the answer is, which one did they make more money from on a per player basis? And the answer will be they make more money from loot boxes.
Yeah.
So they will shut the other thing down.
Correct. And yes, the Russian Badger ban, the one of the Valve devs was in chat when a streamer was going on a spending spree trying to get a knife, and they banned him for spending too much. Is an interesting story, but like, is hard to make that play in court well, right? It's a good story, and they probably will try and make it play in court, but like, that's different. So, yes, Jeff, let's go over this.
So, yeah, I was just going to see if we'd kind of gone through and hit everything we wanted to. So,
yeah.
Hey, there's a lawsuit against Valve from the New York Attorney General.
Yep.
We talked about what it is.
Yep.
We talked about A, loot boxes.
Yep.
B, how Valve does loot boxes.
Yep.
C, what Valve cosmetics are.
Yep.
D, that there are how you do trades both within Steam.
Yep.
And then the ability for some to go outside of Steam.
Yep.
Brought in a real world or other fun example, which is pachinko.
Yep.
Talked about, gambling's big, but why Valve?
Yep.
Out of the game industry. And part of it would be, by the way, if other companies were engaging in this, I think Valve would be a lower target. Like, there are companies that do loot boxes and monetization way more egregiously. It's just that Valve has the marketplace, and Valve is one of the only places that let you cash out.
Yep.
Like, Valve's use of loot boxes is pretty decent. Like, if you take the industry scale of nice to horrific, like, Valve is much higher on the nice than the horrific scale.
Yeah.
It's the marketplace part that...
Right. They're not Clash Royale, right?
Yeah. So let's see. So then we, went through the New York lawsuit. We talked about, how the trading market is Valve's Achilles heel. Kind of how there is an axe to grind here, though, and the New York Attorney General does not seem to like video games, and that's also probably playing into this.
Yep.
Valve's response.
Yep.
Will, what do you and I think about all this? Like, we've kind of gone through the story here.
I find myself struggling because I have incredibly fond memories of not like cracking keys, but like, so I played TF2 at like Orange Box. Like I was playing TF2 when they introduced hats. Like, I was playing TF2 before there were crates, okay? So, like, a long time. And I remember the enjoyment that came from trade servers and from the process of, like, trading around and, like, the sort of marketplace-esque-ness of all of this, right? Where there was, like, player-to-player trading. And so I really value that part. But I also recognize that like, and I'm not talking like big things. I'm talking like trading like weapons around and trying to get like, the pre-order bonus that came with a game or whatever, right? Like, not big stuff, right? And so that was enjoyable and fun for me as an activity to do. And I am also struck by the fact that this is like very difficult for Valve to be like, no, we don't have anything to do with this, when the argument is presented pretty clearly, right? So, like, I don't like it, but I feel like the New York AG very much has a point, right? At least that's...
And it's interesting for me because I like a lot of things about Valve.
Yeah.
I think Valve does a lot of things right. I 100% think this is, they have set up a way to do gambling and they are profiting from it.
Yeah.
And they unabashedly are making money off of, in some cases, people going in and doing what looks and smells like gambling.
Yep.
And you can go to any number of streamers and TikTokers and other things who will sit there and performatively do, go dump a whole bunch of loot boxes, see what they get out of that, and then go sell it. And those people make their views off of gambling, doing gambling videos aimed at kids.
Yep.
And encouraging that behavior. Like, they have created a whole ecosystem, not just of gambling, but of people who use that as performative theater to sell it to young people and kind of bring that in. Like, as I said, I like many things about the way Valve does. This is one that's always been a little slimy.
Yeah.
slimy, schmarmy, all of that. And it's probably the one aspect of Valve that I think probably should be shut down. Like, there are the bad far outweighs the good here.
Yeah. It's so very difficult, right? Because I really like that one of the side effects of this, right? Which is that if you don't want the big ticket items, it's super cheap to get a bunch of cool cosmetics, right? Like that, there is like an entire additional secondary market for this, right? Element to this, which is that like you can outfit your whole Dota 2 roster for like $3, right? Because there are so many like bad cosmetics that you can just get on the marketplace for a small amount of money because they're
people don't want them.
Yeah, they're cosmetic equivalents of draft chaff, right? And so like I wish I could see a way through, because I agree that like, yep, it's gambling, they're profiting from it, that's a problem, right? But I wish I could keep the positive parts of this, the low end cosmetic circulation, the e-market, like
there are some good side benefits that come out of that. I absolutely will agree with you.
And so,
but it's just like,
yeah,
the thing that causes the bad can also have some good packed in with it.
Yeah, right. This is, and again, that's one of the reasons why I think this is so worth talking about, is it is such an interesting lawsuit and an interesting issue that we like, how I think a lot of people have some emotional investment in this, right?
Yeah.
There is a very small part of the modern player base that isn't at least aware of one of those three games. Right, because those three games span so much of esports and Steam culture, right? Like CS:GO and Dota are usually two of the top three most played games on Steam at any given time on any day, right? And that's just how it is, right? There are like 1 million people playing Counter-Strike concurrently most of the time, and about 500,000 playing Dota 2 again most of the time. So there.
You know the funny thing though, Will, I think my guess is that somewhere around 95% of those people would be completely unaffected by Steam removing the ability to trade.
I don't know if I agree entirely with that on gut feeling, but I can see the point that you're making.
Yeah, like they might be a little disappointed.
Yeah,
they can't trade, or they might have been like, they probably, most of them have never ever traded, but kind of like the idea that maybe they could one day if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But I would say for the vast majority of the population, like this would be well, that sucks. And they'd continue to play the games and buy loot boxes to get fun stuff.
Yeah. I also imagine that Valve would do some other... I firmly believe that Valve would come up with some way to have their cake and eat it too. Like to comply with this, with a ruling against them in this case, but also to maintain those elements that people like, right? Like everybody gets a free thing for logging in, and that thing can be traded on the marketplace, but anything you crack with a key is trade banned, right? Like there are trade banned items. You can do that. That's a thing they've done before. You can trade ban an individual item. And that might be enough to say that anything that comes out of a loot box that you get from a key is trade banned, but anything that you get from a crate that you randomly open for playing the game or for winning a game or something is tradable. I can see them trying to cut a middle ground. I don't know how I feel about that.
I can already think of 4 or 5 things that wouldn't replicate it, but might do something similar around that. But the way it currently is set up is both illegal and has some extra bad stuff that goes along with it.
Yep.
In addition to all of the nice stuff, like, I want to be very clear. There are lots of benefits for people, but most laws are set up because certain bad actors take them and press them to such a point that people are like, people shouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to be able to drive my car 90 on the freeway in some cases, but certain people have done things like that in such a way that it is advisable for the entire population to no longer be able to do such a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good place for us to leave it. Chad, thank you so much for engaging with this and for helping us make sense of this. This is probably one of the things I've done the most reading on, for like, just in terms of like stuff I didn't know. I did a whole bunch of reading on Polymarket too, and all of the lawsuits that are going on about that, on the off chance that was super relevant. But thank you all so very much for engaging and for disagreeing politely and for having different and unique points of view. I really like this.
We have a good community.
We do. There will be no design club next week. Instead,
I will be at PAX East.
That is correct. You can find the crew over at PAX East. There will be a design club live on.
Oh yeah. So Friday at 12:30. If you are at the Friday at 12:30. So just after lunch. If you are at PAX, come see Matt, actually, and a couple of really good friends. Oh, you know who we're going to have, Will?
Who?
We're going to have Jasmine, that bronze girl, will be with us. Jenna Strober, who wrote a couple of our recent episodes and does very good videos of her own and is a good games journalist, will be there. And J8 from Dungeon Delve.
Oh, that's awesome.
Will be on the panel with us. So we will all be looking at the Resident Evil that just came out.
Okay.
And doing an hour live discussion on that. I don't think it's broadcast this year. I'm always a little unsure of which rooms end up being broadcast or not. But if it is, I will get Will the information and he can hook up the stream. But I don't know. PAX cut down greatly on the number of streaming rooms for some reason.
Yeah, it is a bunch of tech and it's kind of a big pain to set those up. So, no design club next week. There will also be no breakfast on Monday. So the next time that I will see all of you will be in for design club in like 2 weeks if you're on YouTube. But don't worry, we'll be live here on Twitch. I'm going to be slaying the Spire consistently. Hopefully, I'm on A7 and climbing. There will be content here the entire time, but there won't be our normal schedule of talk shows. So, I think all that remains is for us to say goodbye to the people and sign off. So, Jeff, you say bye to the people?
Bye to the people. Thanks, everybody.